Yas Black Girl.
Hey y'all, I'm Kiara Sheree.
And I'm Ray.
And welcome back to Yas Black Girl.
Hey.
Yes. It's been a little minute, honey. Okay.
What's up with y'all?
Yes.
How you feeling?
Mm.
So, for those that are new to us, Yas Black Girl is a digital space and interview series created for Black women by Black women. Stay with us for a while, and we hope to leave you feeling inspired.
Yes, period. So in today's episode, we're going to be joined by two of our beautiful, beautiful friends to explore our personal experiences with grief and how to manage these emotions. If you've been grappling with feelings of grief, we sincerely encourage you to listen to this episode fully and just stay with us for this full conversation because it's going to be a great time, an emotional time, but a great time with some good tips and gems thrown up in there, okay? All right, but before we get into that, let's get into our catch-up question of the day.
If you could switch lives with a celebrity for a day, who would it be? And what's the first thing you do?
For me, I'm definitely about to be Queen Latifah for the day, okay? Because the silk presses, they be silking, and I just want to know what the secret is. I know it's a secret formula out there or something that has her swinging the way that she be swinging. So I really, really want to get into that. And if it wasn't Queen Latifah, then I'm probably going to go with Issa Rae so that I can throw me a little yacht party for me and my niggas. And then I'm going to hire myself at one of her companies, okay? Because, hello, it's a job. So, yeah.
Right.
What you doing?
She probably wake up and be like, stiff wear, and then it's just that.
Okay. She literally just shakes it and goes. I swear. It's like she don't do nothing else. It's
she
beautiful.
is the shake and go.
Okay. The natural shake and go. It's beautiful. I love it.
So for me, this is so typical. I would say Beyonce. So I can watch.
I knew you was gonna say that.
I know, right? Everybody knows. So I can watch the Formation World Tour on her laptop and see like what other work she has, and I would like to see like her archives and like what she does with her costumes after. Like I know she'll probably donate stuff to charity or whatever. And then I would deposit some money into my account.
As you should. Send me a little bit too.
Yes. And get a money manager, an accountant, bookkeeper, whoever. And then I would call Solange to talk to her about what happened in the elevator.
The elevator? I was going to say that next. I was about to say you really need to find out what happened so you can report back to the rest of us. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into our guest for the day. Okay. I'm so excited to introduce these two ladies. So first up, we got an AT alien up in the stew, okay? It's about to be a fun little time. We got the Maryland girls, the ATL, cute little merge, okay? So an early educator and an awkward at-will creative who's waddled her feet in a couple of podcasting and creative writing spaces herself, we love to see it. After enduring a few heavy personal losses, she made a faith-filled pivot that landed her in the current city of Denver, Colorado, where she's doing her candle making, some adventure hopping, some trail hiking, and even courting the idea of writing a book, which if pursued will be released as early as 2025. I love it.
Great book.
Yes.
So next up, we have Sabina Monet, hailing from Prince George's County, Maryland, Pretty Girl County, period, who's a well-traveled, multi-dimensional creative, dance artist, performer, choreographer, dance educator, and media creative. She has earned a BF in dance performance and choreography, as well as a BS in electronic media and film with a concentration in audio and radio. Shout out to the audio.
Period.
She has experience both on and behind the camera, and with this plans to continue merging the two worlds together to explore different concepts and movement styles. And she is also an avid supporter of Black art and Black artists because she is one herself. So why wouldn't she be? Yes. And she's also my very best friend who I've known since literally forever, since in utero. So that's my girl. Anyways, let's give a warm welcome to Kourtney Danielle and Sabina Monet.
Woo! Yes! What's good, y'all? How y'all feeling?
What's going on, people? What's going on?
Yes.
I got Maryland in the house, like all over in the camera spaces. You guys didn't warn me that I would be like,
girl
totally...
county in the building.
It's all right. You bringing the diversity in. Yes. We love it.
No, for sure.
So today, y'all, we're going to be discussing grief, something that we've all experienced. Anyone who's listening, if you have not experienced it yet, you will experience it at some point in your life in many, many different forms. I do want to start out by saying shout out to Kourtney for basically outlining this conversation with her guest star submission, okay? Woo. Because sis gave us all the bullet points, and I said, and that's what I'm talking about right there. Yes. So I want to start out the conversation.
I was about to say, like, namely unprocessed. Letting that be the operative word, because they were completely like, she dibs over here. I might have something to say, but
yes, I love it.
Completely unprocessed. Yeah.
So I want to start out the conversation with us discussing anticipatory grief. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, anticipatory grief is when you know that a loved one is about to pass on, you know that the loss is coming. And a lot of times it's due to some sort of illness. And I know that it's something that most of us have some experience with. So I just want to kind of check in with you all and just start out by asking you, like, what has your experience been with anticipatory grief? We can kind of do like a little round robin and just kind of go from there.
Most recently, my family experienced 2 back-to-back deaths in the family. And the first one being that anticipatory grief that we just talked about, my grandma, where it was like, you always think they have, you always think you have a little bit more time until you don't, you know what I'm saying? It's like, and she lived a strong 92, y'all, strong 92 years. So it's like, it was one of those things that, and she was on hospice care for a little bit too. So like, once you kind of put somebody on hospice, it's like, you kind of understand like where things are going. We also, we had her at home, like my uncle, who lives with us, was her in-home caregiver. So she was blessed enough to be able to be home like this entire time that she's been, ever since I think she had her first stroke, and like I think I was in like middle school when that happened, and she like moved in here with it. So there's like not even a time I don't remember her like not being here really. And so you put somebody on hospice, and it's like I said, you kind of know where things are going, but you just always feel like, oh, I still got a little bit more time. They're still kicking. It's still, all of that. And then it feels overnight, like what you were anticipating for a while, then feels like it happened overnight. And it's like, it's really a crazy feeling. And it's one that, like, at least in my case, having the person who passed living in the house, then it's this weird void after that, where it's like, you go past what used to be their room, and you look over, hoping to see their face again, and then you don't. And just like I think one of the hardest parts is just the getting used to it no longer being the case. I mean, that's with any grief, of course, but especially one that was like that, where, they were in-house, and just getting used to, going to the kitchen and like not seeing them over there, like, going to check on them, or like, even my mom like does this now time where like she used to check the temperature in the house and be like, to make sure that she wasn't too cold, and she has to catch herself. Like, it's like little stuff like that is daily, that I think is the hardest part for me. So
yeah, I felt the same, like the day of her service when I came to y'all's house, and I was like, it feels empty in here. Like, this is
right,
because I'm used to always seeing her whenever I went there, because I was always there at one point.
Right.
So yeah,
it's like an emptiness, but a fullness at the same time.
Yes.
It's an emptiness, like, of them not being there, but then there's like the fullness of the memories, and all of the space that they occupied. Even not even just the stuff that's still down there, but like just the space that they took up. So yeah, I know what you mean.
I would say from my experience, like I was the full-time caregiver for first my mom and then my aunt, and the anticipatory grief, I think, hit most was when I started like noticing that this person that I'd known as this strong woman, this powerhouse, the person I looked to when I was going through, when I was in shambles, no longer being that person. When I started like seeing that fighting spirit leave, those were all like signs to me that not only have I fully, in the process of losing her, accepted this loss, but she has too. And I think that part got devastating when I saw that she had kind of, because for so long, what had happened was, I gave her a lot of mess about this, because like, I'm a person who's like there for the facts. When I get the diagnosis, I got the prognosis, I was terrified. And I had this idea of what it was supposed to be, the process of losing her was supposed to be. I had an idea of what the conversations were that we were supposed to have. All of that required for her, I think, at least in part, to accept what was happening to her. And I look back now and I'm just like, what an asshole thought of you. Like, what, for you to try to dictate or try to put yourself in this position to know what it's like to come to terms with something this devastating. But anyway, like I had this script, or I had this idea of what it was supposed to be. And when I didn't get that, it was really hard. And I thought that was the worst part. But I think it was when it got so bad, and when the declining had gotten so noticeable to even her, and that fighting spirit and that will to live had left. I think that, to me, the acceptance I wanted her to have the entire time, and seeing her actually accept it, I think that is when the anticipatory grief became highlighted and emphasized for me, because I could want something all day, or I could see that, this is how it should go, or this cut and dry process of how it should go. And I can think about that all day, but the minute she believed it, it became real for me. And it was a rough time. And yeah, the same thing, like looking over and seeing those spaces they used to occupy, those spaces that they occupied for a long time. Like, you've had the knowledge that this person is leaving, that, the prognosis isn't good, that you will be eventually living in their loss. But it doesn't resonate when you like see them. Like you look around and you're just like, I still have the comfort of seeing this physical body here, seeing this presence, feeling their warmth. And when that is gone, it hits. But it's such a, knowing that it's coming, and even though you should feel prepared, knowing that it's coming and having to deal again, like I said, with the process of it. I feel like that was my grieving in a nutshell, was the anticipatory grief.
Wow.
Because I was so close to it, because I was her caretaker, I was watching, the injuries not heal. I was watching the mobility becoming limited. I was face forward with a lot of the things that would tell me and would notify me that this is going downhill, this is going south, and it's going fast. And I didn't have much at the loss. I didn't have much at the funeral. I didn't have much at the services, because I spent all my time during that time grieving. Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I can't relate on your level, because that's just a completely and totally different. I can't even imagine. But I remember watching my great grandmother. She had Alzheimer's, and she and I weren't super close, but I had a relationship with her, and I was always around her growing up. So when she first got diagnosed, of course, it was just like little things here and there that she's like forgetting, but she was still kind of sharp. And then I think maybe within maybe a year or so, it was like a huge, huge decline, to where she was basically just like a shell of herself. And she was still with us for like a couple years, like a few years after that. But just watching, it was almost kind of like we had already lost her. So that whole time, leading up to the time when she finally did leave, I remember when we finally got the call that she had passed on, and it was kind of like you're saying, it's kind of like you had already kind of did that grieving, because every time we would see her at a family reunion, or anytime I would see her when she was like with my aunt and we were traveling somewhere, it was like she wasn't her anymore. So that in itself was a lot to grapple with. But I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah. There's like with my grandma, I almost feel like it was a little not opposite of that, but I guess in a sense a little opposite of that, because I felt like she was, still like a lot of herself, all the way until like close to the end. Like I feel like for me it didn't really register for a while. Like I specifically remember this one day. I don't remember if it was somebody's birthday or if it like just dinner or something one day. I can't remember what it was, but like we were just all in the house, and they were asking, her like if she was tired, like if she was ready to go to bed. They had put her from her bed to the wheelchair, and like um she was like in the wheelchair at the time, and they were asking, if she was ready, if she was tired, if she was ready to go to bed or something like, or no, I think they specifically asked, was she tired? And she said, yes, but then my mom was like, she said something along the lines of, are you like tired, like you like sleepy, or are you like ready to leave us tired? And she just said nothing. Like she didn't say a word after that. And I was like I heard it, but I didn't really hear it, because I don't even remember like the time frame from when that was said to like when she actually passed at this point. It wasn't very long, but I remember hearing that, and then later being like, this was like, that's what she
told
us.
us.
She told us. She said she was tired. You know what I mean? So it was like
she was ready.
She was, and it was like, but it's like no matter who says it, no matter how many times they say it, you, of course, you don't want to believe it. And of course, you're like, oh no, like it's fine. And it's like,
so I do have something to add to that. Well, this is going to be a later question, but it's about like being a caretaker and everything. Sabina, knowing that your mom and your uncle were like the main caretakers. I mean, I feel like everybody in the house was taking care of her,
Yeah.
She was there. How are they able to show up for y'all now at this point in the family? Because I know they had a certain schedule that they were on, and now it's not that. So how does that impact their everyday life now? And I know that became a part of their identity because they were doing it for so long.
Yeah, no, that's a good question actually. So my uncle was like legally the caretaker. Like that was his job, and so like getting like assistance from the government, things like that. Like that was like that really was all that he did, for as long as I can remember too. And so I know it probably affected him not the hardest, like emotionally wise or anything like that, but like I said, it was his job. So now he's having to figure out, okay, what am I going to do next, financially, what am I going to do next, like, just in things to do, because that was like where he spent like he spent all his time home taking care of her, you know what I mean? And so I think that's like, and he's still, dealing with that right now, because it's only been a few months since this happened too. So like it has not been that long. So he's I know still figuring things out with what he's gonna do next financially and things like that. And my mom, like she's been working from home, for a while, pandemic and everything, of course, but it being part of her daily schedule to, like just, she'll be in the chair at the computer and like just looking over, checking on and stuff like that. And so I feel like she still, by habit does that a lot of times. But I feel like we've been able to spend more time wanting to make change in the household, like within the family. I feel like we've been in a state of, I mean, yes, we're humans, we're creatures of habit, things like that, but just like wanting to just make changes in different ways of like wanting to spend more family time, wanting to she like wants to look for another job after she retires for this one, like looking for different things to do, how we want to rearrange our schedules. We've been having family meetings every week, and like trying to help each other do things more, because like if these past couple of months have taught us nothing, is that time is limited, number one. But then also just the importance of family. And my family is we have a very different dynamic where we're very close knit, and so like immediate family and extended family, we don't really like differentiate between the two, because we like grew up together. So like, the uncle that lives with me, and I have cousins down the street. Like I grew up with them. Like, I have one brother, and we've been in the same house together, this entire time. So like we grew up together. So it was like I had additional brothers, and like the family dynamic, like I said, the uncle, extended family, like we don't even do that. It's just you family, we all immediate family is how that feels. And so we've always been that. Of course there's been like, a little distance, over time, people growing up, people got families, stuff like that. But if nothing else, this taught us was like the importance of bringing it back together to each other. So that I think has been like the biggest impact of like everything in the last couple of months. That's been going on, is like we're making it more of a point to show up more for each other now, like, because we just realize like how quick things can change. You know what I'm saying?
I love that that's the way that you guys have been going about it, because I've seen it.
I was just about
the
to
complete
say,
and total opposite for a lot of
that's
families.
admirable. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. And for you, Kourtney, for someone who was a caretaker, what was your experience as far as like kind of getting back into your like a new routine and just having to kind of find yourself a little bit more again?
So mine was tricky. So I just come from New York caring after my mom. She had stayed in New York for a year, and and throughout this battle. So I just come back from taking care of my mom, and I had to jump right into taking care of my aunt. So, and then of course there was the 2020 pandemic. There were things that completely offset normalcy for like everybody, for everyone. So, but I couldn't find myself being more grateful for that, because it wasn't a reminder. It wasn't a constant reminder of how behind I felt in that capacity. But the result of that, after being a caretaker for so many years, I jumped ship. I did the most extreme thing ever. Like for my circumstances, I wanted to be away. I feel like I saw, and like I said, your Sabina, the reaction from your family is so admirable. It's so beautiful. It's ideal, really. And, in my case, I feel like I got to see a few truer colors when it came time to deal in the topic of death. And I, as a caretaker, and eventually as someone that specifically my aunt, because she technically, and I talk about her as a middle woman, she was as much as a maternal figure as my mom had been to me. I wasn't that close to my grandmother. There was like generations in between my older cousins and myself. So they had a lot more time with her. My grandma passed around like 2003. And so I was just getting my footing really, and I didn't really get to know her. But my aunt, being the oldest of 9 kids, kind of took on that role for me. And now I like endearingly refer to her as the middle woman because the love I have for her and the influence she was in my life was so much more, I feel, than what people think when they think of an aunt. That might be different for you, Sabina, because your family, y'all are hitting the spot.
But it's the same though, like in terms of like what they mean to you. It's the same.
Yeah. Like it's people when I tell them like, my aunt passed and it was devastating, they come with this prescribed idea of what an aunt is and how that aunt shows up. But this aunt she was every bit of a guardian. She kind of taught me how life was outside of like, my mom was the social element, but my aunt was more so of like, these are taxes. These are things you will face. This is a savings account. She kind of taught me how to navigate adulthood before I got there. I'm not sure how proud I'm making her. No, let's make that a disclaimer.
Listen, let's all give ourselves grace.
Right. I might not be carrying on her legacy, but yes. Yeah, grace.
Let's get her out here.
Okay.
Yeah, but she was so much more, the love I have for her. She was somewhere in between a mom and an aunt for me. So I just call her the middle woman, in a sense. But having those that connection with her, and then her being she was a married. Her husband had passed some years prior, so a widow, and she never had any children. So she kind of took in my sister and I. Again, more like granddaughters, but blood like nieces and things like that. And it was the way she had looked out for my sister and I that caused a few of my family members to question and hurl out accusations, some very hurtful accusations. Some were verbalized, some were unspoken. But you can pick up on the energy. You know where they're heading with that, with the line of questioning. You can pick up on what they're trying to insinuate. And this is no shade. I love y'all. I know y'all gonna be watching, but it hurt me in a way because, like I said, there were some years between my closest cousins in age and myself and my sister. And just that quickly, we went from being like harmless little flowers, harmless little flies, to being people capable of really heinous strategy acts and things like that. And so in that loss, there was so much going on. Like I couldn't, I had to separate myself from, I felt like I lost twice in a way. Because I had to come to terms with the way that situations like this can bring out the worst in people. Worse than myself. You know what I'm saying? Like it can lead to, when there's not a clear line or clear, she had no children, husband had passed, and there was no clear line, but because we were there present, we being myself and my sister, we were there, we were present. There was sort of this idea that we had, it was just devastating, in a way. And so I had to kind of deal with a couple of separations in a way. And on top of that, I was kind of living in a space where I felt like my existence had it had turned peripheral. Like my entire purpose for a while was caring, and it's something I would do all over again. It's something that without question I would do all over again. But I couldn't see my value outside of that. And even when I lost my aunt, who had been the second loss, even when I lost her, I found myself trying to stay in position, helping out with my sister and her children and things like that, just being the helper, being the caretaker, existing in the role that had defined me for so long. And until I started, that thread or theme on, it was really big, like TikTok, of like main character syndrome. And I was like, I can't relate. I am living my life, and I don't feel like it's ever been mine, at least in these last few years. But it was still hard to separate that value, that worth, and being a caretaker. And then, for it being held so high in my life and in my mind, the contrast of it in trying to apply for jobs, trying to get back into the career force, and the contrast of how important it was and how much of my value and how definitive it was for me versus how employers or prospective jobs would view it. I was at a cognitive like it doesn't make, like, even now I am facing the repercussions of that, and they are what they are. They are repercussions. The repercussion for me not taking care of my aunt and my mom would have been losing them without trust that they were getting the help that they needed. So that was a repercussion I wasn't willing to.
That's huge. That's
to
huge.
face. But there are, on the other end, every choice, even if it didn't feel like a choice to me, because it didn't feel like a choice, but every choice has its consequence. And, you know, right now, as someone who was previously working in nonprofit and honestly, I was developing myself as a professional. As you can see, my stuff is a little bit all over the place, but still developing, you know, where I wanted to go, the path I wanted to take, whether I wanted that to be communications, whether I wanted that to be somewhere in nonprofit, because it held a spot, but trying to re-enter and having all of this experience, because it was physical labor, it was mental research. So many things that I had to come across for the first time, so much medical jargon that I had to learn that I could have been a CNA, you know, so much I had to learn and be acquainted with really fast and out of urgency. But when I tried to parlay that into a resume or into a CV or into an interview, it's almost seen as like, you know, that's what you're supposed to do, which is, yes. But at the same time, you are holding against me my loss of experience, the time that I did not grow in this field, the time that you, you know, would rightly measure progression. You show that empathy and you show that you understand, but there is that disconnect of like, this work is not very valued. It's not valued.
It's not.
And yeah, I if that was the question, if that was the answer to the question, yes, like it's been hard. Like it's been hard. And again, like I said, I'm faced with the natural question that you want to ask yourself is that, do you regret taking care of your loved ones? You know, if this means so much. And the answer is always, I'd do it again. You know, I'd do it again. But it's not without its losses. So I figured, I was like, you know, if I'm gonna be broke, let me be broke somewhere I want to be. So I
broke
was like,
and happy.
So let me see what they talking about in these mountains. Like,
word.
What that look like?
Okay.
What does that look like for me? And so I was like, I'd rather have scenery. And also I was living in the house where the losses had occurred. So I had, so for the most part, I had taken care of my mom in New York until it had gotten down to like the 3-week mark where it was definitive that she was going. And I had to figure out how to get her back home to Georgia. So that family who previously didn't know, that was also another element to caretaking. My mom had requested, and my aunt both had requested that those family members not be informed.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we were, my sister and I were kind of like thugging it out alone. And to that, I guess to that, I can give grace to my family members who wanted to have, you know, have those things to say, because it does seem a little sketch. You know, it seems like they were deprived of that opportunity to have their goodbye. So I understand that, but here I am thinking that I'm doing the right thing for the person I'm taking care of. I'm trying to make their, you know, their transition a little bit easier. So I'm trying to make happy as much as possible the person that I'm taking care of. But I'm so sorry. I lost my train of thought completely. And it's probably good because I probably need to stop. But
no, you gotta get it out. You gotta get it out. That's something I learned in this process. Like when it comes up, you can't hold it. You gotta let it out and go the best that you can.
I appreciate this platform so much because it feels like a safe spot to talk about it. Like anyone else, if I go that route, it sounds heartless. It sounds compassionless. It sounds, but this is a part of me learning to grow around my losses. And if that process is hindered even in the slightest, you know, it's it's emphasized to you, you know, because you know that what you did was a labor of love, was, you know, something that you wouldn't trust anybody else to do, you know. But to have it regarded and diminished and even ignored, it sucks. And like I said, just coming to terms with the fact of like how I had defined myself over this like huge piece, and realizing that other people think it as worthless. It was something. So I jumped ship. I flew regions, time zones away, and you know, coping, but in the most extreme way possible.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Travel, see the world a little bit. It's like you said, if I'm gonna be sad, let me be sad.
You let me be
by a beautiful sunset, like on the beach. Like let me cry on the beach. If I'm gonna cry,
Beautiful.
let me cry in a 5-star hotel. Like
Yeah.
you know, whatever the case.
Yeah.
Like,
no, for real.
Yeah.
Also, to that point, something that I've noticed a lot too over the past few years with just like losing older people in my family, is that people really do expect you to just move on like it's nothing. Like people will grieve with you and they're in that process with you at the funeral, maybe like a couple weeks after that. But after that, you really on your own. And nobody's like checking in like that. People just kind of going back to their lives. And then they look at people crazy when they're still grieving and when they're still trying to find ways to connect. Because that's another big thing is like, how are you going to in some way like stay tethered to the person, the loved one that you lost? Like what does that look like? I know for a lot of us, we got pictures of our families around. We try to, you know, just stay close to them in some type of way, talk about them as much as we can. Even just for some people, maybe having like a space, whether it be a room or a home, trying to like hold on to that space and keep it as almost like an archive for real. But people will literally look at you like you're crazy for doing that. And it's just amazing to me how people really don't get it until they're going through it themselves. And they just like, okay, now I get what you were going through. Yeah.
Yeah. Because everybody's grieving process is different. And like, you can't, you know, judge anybody for how they're going through their process because you don't know their situation. You don't know their testimony. You don't know how, just how those things have affected them. Like, my dog's barking in the background. I hope y'all can't hear. Anyway, but okay, great. But yeah, like you don't know other people's stories and situations, so like you can't say how somebody should go about something because you're not in their shoes and you don't see things how they see them. You don't have the same mentality they do. They don't, you know, all of these things. People run to different things because like that's just we're human. We try to just do whatever's going to make us feel good in the moment, whether it's temporary or not. You know, we're just trying to soothe the pain in any way that we can. Like some people go more drastic routes, some people don't, you know what I mean? So like it's just a different process for everybody, and like you have to just honor that for people. Of course, you don't want people taking dangerous routes. You don't want people, you know, doing things like that. And so especially when it's people you care about, you know, you want to try to be like, hey, like you good, sis? Like maybe we shouldn't down that whole bottle of that. Maybe we shouldn't, you know, like you start to check in on people, but that comes with having people that you care about around you who will check in with you, you know, in situations like that. Because it's like some people just but everybody has their own lives, and I get that too, that people got things they got to do and all of that. But when you really got people that really care about you, they'll just check in on you, be like, hey, yo, you good? Then after, you know, let a few months pass and you like, just want to check in, see how you've been feeling. Like, what do you need? I love those what do you need friends when they're like, just what do you need right now? You know, and it's like, I don't know what I need right now, but thank you for asking. Like, or you're like, I just need to go out and have a good time. Yeah, like just the thoughtfulness of that. It really goes a long way.
I was going to say, like, I recently came across another TikTok talking about cave dwelling friends. And I thought that was such a dope point. Like, the concept is essentially like those people who don't want to talk about it. If you don't want to talk about it, those people who are like expecting a certain thing or expecting a certain appearance from you, but they'll just sit with you in your grief, in your silence, in your awkwardness. And I'm like, I kind of had a couple of those, and I need to go back and tell them that was probably the most incredible thing that they could have done for me, and the most incredible way they could have shown up. Is just being there and letting me be when I was going through the thick of it. But yeah, I also agree. I feel like there are messages that you hear but don't hear at the individual level, because no one's outright telling you like, all right, get over it. No one's like, all right, wrap it up. No one's doing that. But
I hope
but
not.
you gotta get right. Well,
they are. You need to drop them.
Okay.
I have to say this is purely internal, and I might need to drop that like internal critic inside too. But I mean, purely like telling myself, hey, this is enough. They don't want to hear this. This is not the space for it. It's been this many years, this many months. Get over it. Or dance around it. Make it presentable, make it palatable.
And you never get over it.
That shit
never
always okay.
Talk about high heels, and it's like
it don't, child.
You look at a picture. It just keep going. It just keep
have a conversation. You smell something.
Yes.
And the next thing you know, you cry.
You're back at it. Yeah. You're back at whatever stage of grief.
Is so different, because it'll be like that, where you might go 3 months with nothing, you might go a year with, and you hear one song and you like and that's it. Like, it's such a weird thing, like, but it's real.
Yeah.
And I know with me in 2020, I lost my grandmother to COVID, and then that month we lost 2 other family members. So like April 2020 was a mess, but we couldn't go to like any memorial services or anything because of restrictions. So grieving
that was the hardest thing
at once. It was weird
with no closure,
right? And I'm still in a weird place because it's like we didn't see her, and I hadn't seen her in maybe 2 years because I went to a wedding in North Carolina for my family, and that was the last time I saw her. And I spoke to her on the phone briefly, and I wish I would have called her more. I know that's one thing that I don't regret anymore, but I'm taking note of that and applying that to future experiences with my family, making sure I'm calling, checking people, because I know my schedule gets crazy, but like I just have to be intentional with my time. So yeah, grieving her, it's a weird process because I couldn't really. I was just by myself and with my roommates at the time. And I don't think I told them immediately because I was just internalizing everything. And then I was going through a breakup, and then like everything was my life.
Yeah, girl. I remember that time.
Y'all know. Y'all already know.
I remember.
So thank you for being there for me. But yeah, just trying to move through that and and look at old pictures of her, and I'm actually kind of glad that there wasn't a funeral, because sometimes I don't like seeing my family members like that at their last moment. Like,
that's also fair.
Literally, I couldn't either. Like, it was hard because similar to you, where you're talking about, you had multiple at once. We also had multiple at once, where it was my grandma. She passed June, and this was this year, this summer. She passed June 9th. Her service was June 23rd. My uncle, not the one that lives with me, the one who lives down the street, passed July 23rd. So literally a month. Like you didn't even get a chance to grieve the first one, and then the second one happened so unexpectedly too, which was like what caught everybody even more off guard. But having those multiple at once, the back-to-backs, and like at each, because there's the service, but then there's the family viewing, that's the day before, or whatever time you schedule it, whatever, the day before. And I couldn't look. Like it was like you see from a distance, like you walk in the room and you see it about it, but like there's something different about like seeing it up close. And like I think for my grandma, I did look at one point. Like I mean, it just it hurt every time you look.
I didn't.
Like
I kept it at a distance.
Yeah, it was like I think for hers, I did look a little up close. Because there's this different level of acceptance. And like we talked about the anticipatory grief, where like you kind of are knowing that it's like going in that direction type of thing. Like there's a little bit, it doesn't make it any easier, but there is a little bit more of an acceptance of like, okay, we know, she's on hospice, things like that. But my uncle, because that one was so unexpected. I was there when both of them happened, like, and for that one to be so unexpected, it was like, I mean, still haven't really accepted it, like still haven't fully grasped like that this is a real thing. I mean, I have moments of like some realizations, but I still haven't like even fully grasped that. But like that was a different level. Like I don't know how long that acceptance was gonna take because it was so like I said, it was so unexpected. He wasn't sick. Like there was no like I was right there like when it happened, and I'm like, for it to be that quick, there's like nah, that can't be like that. It feels, and even my mom and my uncle say all the time, we're like, it feels like a dream, like where like just really a nightmare, but it feels like a dream where like it just doesn't feel really, you're just waiting for him to come into the door and like, but like not having that, and like so that was one where I really tried my best not to look, like I couldn't look, like there's a difference in like at the family viewing, like looking versus the looking before they close. Look, baby,
man,
I was in even if I didn't look up close, I was in shambles.
Girl, you saw me.
I know. And Uncle Williams, it was.
And I was PMSing that day, so.
So just emotions, just doing this, and you like, please, everybody, calm down, sit down, hold on, please. Like, I can't. It was that closing, baby. Oh, that's another level of like. So it's almost like it's closure, but like, do I really want that level of closure, or do I want to remember what they were like before? You know what I'm saying? Like and with him, I really felt like that, where I really tried not to look too hard, where it's like, I want to remember, us, being at, like we had just celebrated his birthday. And like, I want to remember that. And like the videos I have on my phone of like, singing happy birthday, like I want to remember that. And the trip that I was on with him when this happened, like, I want to remember that and not this one. You know what I mean? So that's, that one was rough.
Yeah. Because honestly, the anticipatory grief is one thing, but when it's an unexpected loss, good Lord, that thing.
And I've always been curious about that, like because my two heavy hitting losses have been, the process. But
you know it was coming.
Yeah, I've not experienced that.
Yeah, when you don't know that it's coming, it really is like it just shakes your entire world.
Everything up, yeah.
Especially when. It's one thing if like, am I getting emotional?
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, look, I
had to take a deep breath.
I'm ready. So,
it's one thing when it's like they're older, but they're still like moving around, and so you still expect them to kind of like be there. But it's like they pass on, you like, okay, they got a lot of years in and everything. But if it's somebody that you ain't see it coming at all, like what? Like COVID was one thing, because I swear every time I got on Facebook, somebody from my hometown was passing, a family member was passing. I'm going
desensitized it at that point.
Yes, and then at some point when we were able to go back into funeral services, like going back home for multiple services, that was crazy. But even before then, when I first moved to New York, maybe like I want to say this was like my second semester of grad school. Or maybe it was my first semester. It might have been my first semester. One of my cousins committed suicide that year. I had just moved here. I'm still trying to navigate being in like, bitch, I'm about to cry.
And that's okay. Take your time. Let it out. Just like what we talked about a few minutes ago, of when you feel it, let it happen.
Take a deep breath.
Also, y'all, I'm a crier anyway, so
girl, you gonna make me cry.
Why you think I had these right here? For me too. Why you think I had
and I should have grabbed some. Woo!
But I got a receipt. I was like, I got a receipt.
See, it's crazy.
Yo, not the receipts do be coming in handy though.
I'm in the trenches, but yeah,
you know, look something off right quick. I needed that laugh. Okay, but I was still navigating living in a new city. I'm trying to figure out grad school, navigating imposter syndrome like a motherfucker. Like, god damn, am I even supposed to be here? And then that happens. So that was the first one, and it was not expected. It was someone that was like just one of the strongest people that I've ever known. So it was like, huh? Like, what are you talking about? After that, one of my favorite aunties passed away, my great aunt, who I was like really, 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 really close to. And I remember I was sitting in, I think the people, the class above us, they were doing like their thesis presentations or whatever. And I remember my mom calling me, and I'm like, why is my mom calling me right now? Like, this is such a random time. Like, something ain't right. And I stepped outside and I called her back, and she was like, just call me when you get home. And I was like, hold it. What's going on?
Like, you're not about to start off like that. Like
what you mean call when you get home? Like,
saying
this is scaring me.
Because now I'm thinking about it.
So I wait a little bit. And then I think before they could even tell me, I got on Facebook, and somebody had wrote something on Facebook, child. And that's when I was like, hold up, what's going on? And then I left out to come back home, and my godmother, who was my aunt's daughter, she had called and left a message, and at that point I knew what it was, and I was like a wreck. So yeah, that was like a really weird time for me, just back to back dealing with the unexpected deaths. Like, yeah, I'm gonna just take a little break because, child, I'm like,
no, do what you gotta do. Literally, the unexpected, man, it's like, cause so my uncle, who I was just talking about, who just passed, I really feel for, like, so his sons, my cousins that I said I grew up with, like, everybody's grown, you know, but one of them, like, I feel for one of them the hardest, because he's had a lot of back-to-back ones too recently. Like, yes, we've all collectively experienced our grandma. We've all collectively experienced my uncle, their dad. And then I don't know if y'all know about the recent killings. There's been a couple of them in DC. First of all, DC is gone. I mean, not gone like it hasn't already been, but it's just like crazy right now. Where there was one who's actually pretty well known, I guess, in the community, Blake, who was killed, like, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, like, just innocent bystander type stuff.
Was that the one on 8th Street?
Yeah, I think that was that one. Yeah.
Okay.
So he knew him, and then not even days after that, like after his service, or not even days after the service, another person who he knows, younger than him, also same innocent bystander drive by. Like, it's like you want to talk about back to backs, like, and in that kind of way too, where it's like, I feel for him so hard. Like, I mean, like I said, we all collectively experience those too, but like him, like, it's just when it's so back to back like that, it's like, you, like how I talked about during the COVID times where we got desensitized to a certain extent. It's like that's almost worse, where it's like it happens and it's like one thing after another. Okay, here we go. Like, that's almost, I don't know if that's worse than like feeling all of them. You know what I mean? It's like, because you do feel it, but it's just like it just doesn't feel real after a while. And it's like, you ever feel like this is all a simulation anyway? Like, that's
hell yeah.
That's what it feels like a lot of times. Just,
you can't process it.
You can't. Nope. Like, I still have not processed my uncle. Like, because I was there in the room. Like, so unexpected in a way. Like, we were on a family trip visiting a cousin, or a family member who she had just turned 98, and she is up and running. Well, whichever, she's like up and running. She is like all the way there. Like, everything. We went and visited. And he's the one that drove us all the way there, in his car. And like, so it was me and my mom and my two uncles, 4 of us went, and like, we going to get like food on the way back from it or whatever, and he just passes out, and we didn't even know what happened. We were all still inside, and we were like in sheets, and and we just see ambulance lights outside. We like, oh, yo, I wonder what's going on out there. We come out, see him sitting on the stretcher, and we like, what happened? Like, he like ended up, he said he just blacked out, like he just passed out or whatever. So he came back too in that moment, you know what I mean? But I think he had like hit his head or something on the way down too, and like somebody outside called the ambulance. And there's a hospital not like literally directly around the corner, like you could walk to it. It was right there. They were like, we suggested he goes to the hospital. He goes, and my mom sent my other uncle and I back to the hotel so we could get some sleep. We knew she was gonna stay there with him. We were supposed to leave the next morning, so she sent us back to like get some sleep so we could be the ones to drive back the next day, so he wouldn't have to. And like I think we're there maybe a couple hours. She calls him. We're in separate rooms too, so she called him and said what happened. And then he called me and was like, okay, like let's get ready to go back to the hospital. He didn't tell me anything. He just said, let's go back. I'm thinking, okay, we're going to go pick them up. And I'm like, okay, we pull up. I'm like, okay, I'll wait right here at the front door so that when y'all walk out, y'all can just get right in the car. And he's like, nah, go park the car. I'm like, okay. I already was like, something's up. I don't know what, but I'm not thinking that, because like I said, he was fine. There was no, health issues like that we knew of that was going on. Like, oh, we got to make sure we watch it. Like, he just passed out, and it was like, okay, you know what I mean? You're not expecting the worst of it. And I parked the car. We come in. We walking into the family conference room. And I'm like, y'all not telling me something. Like, like, y'all not telling me something. And then it's like you hear the words, in the movies when they like somebody's getting some news and like they're talking, but it like goes
everything is in slow
mute
motion
a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's like you heard it, but you hear it, like that's what it was like. He's what? Like, I was like, nah. And he's what? Like, I think I just remember getting up. I think I like hit the wall or something like that. Like, I'm pretty sure I cussed in front of my mom. Sorry, Mom. But I was
sorry.
Like, no, because I feel like I remember something like, not like, no F-bombs or nothing, but it was like, because I was like, what are you saying? What did you just say to me? Like, I'm thinking we walking in and we gonna walk into his, the room. He gonna be sitting up and, be like, oh, that was crazy, whatever. And like,
yeah.
So you talk about unexpected, like, nothing was wrong. He was fine. Nothing was wrong. And I feel for my mom really hard too, because she was the one that was in the room both times when this happened. So my grandma, she came downstairs and, found her, like, she looked like she was sleeping though. So like, she came down. She was the one who was like calling for everybody to come down. She's the one who found her that way. And then also being in the room with my uncle, like she said, he kept having a hard time catching his breath after he had passed out. And like they kept trying to give him the mask, and all of it, and like with the oxygen, it wasn't helping. She was trying to fan him. He said that was helping a little bit better, but then he just collapsed. He just collapsed in her arms, and that was it. Like it was that fast, and they couldn't get a pulse back. Like it was that fast. And then we go in the room, like, cause he's still in there. They have the sheet over him. How could we talked about earlier not being able to look? That was one. I was like, ain't no way I'm going over there to look. Like I knew it was him. That was enough for me to know, like, that I knew it was him. I didn't need to look because they were like, he's still, like they had like, I guess, the tube down, like trying to, do all of these things. And I was like, what I'm not going to do is look at him like that.
Yeah.
Because that's not what I want to remember. I'm so glad still to this day that I didn't look, because that is not something that I wanted to remember that way. Like,
and I've seen a few family members like that, and
it never leaves you.
It doesn't. It does not. And I've been going to funerals since I was maybe like 3 or 4. So this is just like a normal thing for me. And I tell people that, and they're like, "Oh, I've only been to like 2 funerals in my life." And I'm like,
I never understand that.
I don't know how
It's
that
so
feels.
normal.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
That might be a black. I feel like that has to be. I mean, I don't know if the people that you've talked to that said that they haven't experienced it, but I always feel like it's a black community. They were.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like we be all the time sliding to the funeral. It's like that's where families be coming together. You don't see people for a long time. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's when you see them. Because I can relate too. It's like I've been going to funerals for as long as I can remember. They're not always the same. I've definitely gone to somewhere I maybe wasn't as close to the person, so it's like I'm just kind of there. But then I'm going to somewhere I'm sobbing down the entire time, and it's just like unreal. So, but yeah.
And I remember the day my Uncle Leroy passed. This was a couple months after his mom, my great aunt, she passed as well. And we went to his house that day, and he was still in the bed. He had cancer, so like he was on a bed rest at home on hospice, I suppose. And it was weird being there because he didn't look like himself. Like he was very tiny, and like it just deteriorated him. And I just remember my 2 cousins just standing at the end of the bed, just looking at him, just crying. And I was with my cousin Javon, you know her, Sabina. And and I was talking to her. I was like, I can't be here. Like, it's just too heavy. And she felt the same. So I wasn't even in his room for no more than 10 minutes. So I had went back downstairs because his wife, I think her sister is a funeral director or something. So we had like a limited amount of time before they came and got him to take him to the funeral home. So a lot of the family came and, you know, paid their respects and was there. I don't remember that was just a long day. That was a really long day. And I remember when my mom told us, I think my cousin had called her, and I was just cooking breakfast. It was just another day. And then I can tell that something was wrong when she was on the phone. So I was like, what's happening? Like, what now?
Literally, what now?
Right. Still dealing with my great aunt and loss of her. And it's just like, now what? Yeah. So, and also with my great aunt, her birthday was a day before mine. So we will always celebrate. And now that we can't, it's weird. Everything's just weird. I feel like that's how my grief is about birthdays.
Right
the grief
is
just
it's weird. I to the point of like not being able to see your family members in those predicaments. Like I think that has been one of the chief obstacles to my grief. And having being, you know, a caregiver, that was all I saw. I saw the decline. I saw the deterioration. And when I want to start the grieving that looks like what it looks like to most people, like crying. And when it's time for me to do that, I have to unlock and access those visuals. And I don't want to. I want to push them so far out of my psyche. I don't ever want, like, there was a certain point where my mom had lost like 85% of her colon. And she had to be given, the colonostomy bags that are like at the bottom, but because so much of her colon was gone, it was her, it was called a jejunostomy. And at that level, there's no digestion that's happening. There's no oral feeding. I'm literally feeding my mom through a tube. And when I go,
it's okay.
Sorry.
Don't apologize.
Take your time.
When I go to honor her, because I do see grieving as honoring, you know, when I go to honor her, those images slap the fuck out of me. They hit me. And I want to shove them away so much. And I just say that it's been hard for me to get further in that grieving process, just strictly because the visuals are so much, you know. That's why they say imagination is incredible, because you get to visualize whatever you want. But when you have when you have physical evidence and you have that visual of that person that you can't make up, you can't unsee in a way. It carries a weight in my mind, and I don't know, like I'm still working on that process. Like you had mentioned, just making sure you have like your offerenda or your altar of pictures of your loved ones in phases that you would rather remember them, like being intentional and active in remembering who they were when they were at their best. And I don't know, it part of the process, right? And I want to do it justice. I want to do it justice because I do see it as honoring those that you've lost, grieving them properly. And we just, with all you get a statement from your job that you got 2 weeks to bereave or to be in bereavement. Everything around you is telling you.
I didn't even get that.
And
everything around you is rushing you.
It's telling you that it's time to go. That it's time. Even as quickly as the funeral homes and the insurance companies, and you are told that you can't sit in it. That you barely have time to acknowledge it. And I think it's a very intentional act to go out of your way and grieve your loved ones. And I'm working on doing it justice. I found myself at a church the other day because that was my mama and my aunt's spot.
Amen. Okay. Amen.
That's how you
I'm like, I'm trying to, right? I'm trying to get close. And what was funny was I was on Twitter, and they'd had one of those tweets where they were like, type in predictive text or whatever. So start typing this and then let your middle button predict what the rest of the sentence is. And so of course I'm like all into the woo-woo and all that stuff. So okay. Am I in a woo-woo safe space? Am I in like a permanent? Okay, cool. So I saw it and it was like, my spirit guides are trying to tell me, and then you let the, hit the middle button, let it complete it. And mine were just like, my spirit guides are trying to tell me that you need to be in church. I was like, this cannot be.
But it is.
I said, this is not what you doing?
Going to the house of the Lord, honey.
Because literally,
to the house.
Literally,
this is aggressive.
That itself, no, really, that is exactly what is getting us through. That is. People ask all the time, and like especially my uncle talks about this a lot too. He's like, people ask us all the time, how y'all get, how you dealing, how you getting through it, because how devastating the losses have been, and literally it's God, literally it's Jesus, it's the Lord keeping us through that, like keeping him at the center of all of this, and like keeping him as like, that is our comfort, that is our knowing that they were good with the Lord before they left this earth is what is keeping us, because without those things, like without the connection, without knowing that, that's a different level of grieving, like because it goes so deep. That's another conversation. It goes so deep, like where that would be another level of grieving.
And I was gonna say, like, I'm so confident in my because they were my tether to God. They were my tether to belief, and I'm so confident that that's how they went. And that is a comfort. That is a comfort. That
is what it is. You talked about your family earlier, of like how it made, how it showed more people's true colors more. Like keeping God at the center of it is what brought us this way and not this way. Because of that, like, because that is the family's center and has been the family center. It's like we know how to keep ourselves to that, and like how to, like, it's a praying family is one that stays together, you know what I mean? And like the fact that we have been that and have always been that, and it's not even stronger now than we were before, like that is what is keeping us, is that because he's keeping us, and that's what's keeping us together. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's because it's crazy because you with, you know, a lot of people, when you're dealing with certain level of losses like that, like a lot of people just, it turns some people completely the opposite direction of like, you know, blame, a lot of people blame, you know, blaming God and like all of these things, and it's like, because we know
face.
it's
Have my face.
because it's like, we know everything happened. I am a strong, firm believer in everything happens for a reason, and that he allows things to happen, whether we know the reason for it right now or not. It's always for, he's a loving God. So no matter what it is, it's always for our good, even if we don't see it yet. And it's like, it's hard for a lot of people look at that and it's like, how are you, you know, this and that, when you see things in the spiritual realm versus in the physical realm, in the flesh realm, like it changes your perception of things, even when it's hard, even on them days where you're like, yo, I still don't accept this and I still don't believe it. Like, I don't want to believe this, all of those things. It's like, at the end of the day, we know that it's like, okay, and it's like almost like a affirmation type of thing where you keep just repeating, his plan is perfect. And it's like, if it's like, you know, whatever the plan is, I'd be like, whatever's next, this better be good, whatever's next, because like,
this was a hit.
keep getting, because this was the hit.
This
When you
was
keep
it.
feeling like this is happening, it's like, okay, it can, you know, life does this. So when you're here, it's like, what's next? Right. So it's like, whatever that next thing is, it's preparing us for that, whether we know what that looks like or not. And we don't know what that looks like yet, you know. It's just, it is hard, but when you have him as the center, that's what brings that together, even when we're in them days where we don't believe it, in them days where we're mad, in them days when we're, you know, whatever the case, we know that that's what it comes back to
that.
I want to share again, like, give a little grace to my family, because tensions are high during those times, and it's like,
right,
you need somewhere to put
like,
the energy.
Like, the same, you know, statement of like, grieving looks different, you know, and it went there. So and I want to give them a little grace. Also, I'm not the best communicator in terms of like reaching out and being there, but I will say that the encouragement that I've been getting from them when I do reach out and talk, when I get out of my ass and I reach out and talk, it's that. And I have a different, you know, relationship with God, universe, or whatever. And I can kick myself for doing all this because it sounds foreign to my lips, because I've been so used to saying God. But I'm trying to just kind of decide for myself, like, you know, still having that connection with spirit, but understanding what it will take for me, what title I need to use, what label I need to use to feel comfortable in my practice. So like, I'm still working with that, but I can't deny that there is a benign force out there that is holding me together. That's kept me in all of these situations. Even, you know, even when I am, you know, trying to delay some of those images from coming, I'm like, there's some mental fortitude there that does not come from me. I can't take credit for that. And that will always be like, I might call it differently just for my level of comfort, because I associate like a lot of trauma to like religion, like organized religion.
But religion and relationship are two different things. That's a whole other conversation too. Religion is what that's man-made. That's what people get so caught up in that.
Yes.
And that's not what it is. When you have your own relationship with him, is when that's what the realness of it is. It's like, like I said, because religion being man-made, that's where everybody is like, you following the preacher, and then you know, as soon as he do something wrong, then it's like,
I was gonna say,
church hurt is real. I believe church hurt is real. That is a thing. But we can't associate those two together, because that's not who he is. Like like all of that stuff that has happened in church, all the things that have, you know, made us want to run away, all of those things, that's man. That's all man. When we bring it back, and I have these two separate things in my. I'm like, I keep doing this, and I'm like this.
I love it.
This,
Showgirl.
and then
like
this.
It's giving,
okay.
When we bring it back to him, that's where all of it makes sense. Even when it doesn't at first, that's where all of it makes sense. Like church hurt, like I get it. I understand it's real. But when we can separate that was man and not him, we'll be better. We're a lot better off, you know what I mean? That's just my little 2 cents.
Appreciate it. No, it's all the tokens.
But no, it definitely is. It's like once you have, I feel like all of us have that foundation. We all grew up in the church in some way.
Girl,
and it's just like, okay. And when you have that foundation, you can't get away from it. And for me,
no.
For me, the biggest thing for me is always music because I love music so much. So it'll be an old hymn or something
them
that I used to hear. Them old hymns.
That's what had me crying on Sunday. Like it started in worship, and then the song played that we danced to at his funeral after that. And then it was then I was in shambles after that. Like music,
it was a ministry. Yeah, no, that's when I would go
keeps
to
me
church.
tied.
Yeah,
the music.
I literally have a playlist called God Spell instead of like gospel because I'm an idiot. But I was like God Spell, and I was like, but when I listen to it, it brings me back to those moments where I was at, where I was seeking answers, where I was seeking that comfort. And this was the only way. This was my balm. This was balm and Gilead. This was my bandage. This is what I went back to.
Okay.
This is how my mom taught me to comfort myself. This is how my mom taught me to encourage myself. This is how my aunt would tell me to keep going. And I would literally put on that playlist and bawl my eyes out. But the connectedness that's there when I do that,
it's real. It's real. He's real.
It's different.
He's real.
It really,
nobody could tell me anything else.
And speaking of Godspell, I don't know if you know that's actually a Broadway play.
No.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Here I am thinking I done did something.
Some of my friends, they did it at Bowie. We did Godspell at Bowie, actually. 2 of my old friends, they were in it. Yeah, I'm not sure if you knew or not, but it's about like parables, and I think it's based on the book of Matthew.
Okay.
But yeah, I haven't seen it. I just know about it. So you're on
the track. On the top of there.
Share the playlist. You have to put the playlist in the notes. Get some people through.
Yeah,
so the YBGs that's listening, they may need a little, little something, a little encouragement playlist to get through. Okay.
Maybe we should just do like a collective, like grief episode, like playlist, and we all give like little nutrients.
Yeah. Listen, I will
drop your favorite gospel track in there. Yes.
And everybody up in there.
Listen, I'm here for it.
All right, so switching gears a little bit, what has been some of the ways that you guys have been able to find some peace with the losses? I know a lot of us we're still processing it, forever processing a lot of these things, but like, how are you able to find peace as you continue to move through life? Like, what are the things that kind of bring you back? What are the things that have like helped you to kind of just accept things in a way?
It's exactly what we've just been talking about. It's exactly what we've been talking about. Literally, like I am finding myself like in the word more, finding myself like wanting to study more than like I have before. Because there's a level of like, like you said before, we all grew up in it, and it's like you kind of feel like I'm doing this because I have to. I'm doing this because I've been taught to do this and all that thing. And then there comes a turning point where you want to know it for yourself and you want to seek it for yourself. And I feel like this, like I kind of was feeling myself being pulled that direction even before this happened, but like this was like, it like really made me be like, okay, no, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. It's like, it's, getting in more Bible studies on my own and like,
hold up now, anointing
on my own. Like not
be out here.
Not me teaching the child. I'm talking about just.
You might be.
I'm fine. I'm okay.
I'm just talking about me reading it, child.
I'm not mad at
I'm listening in.
Okay.
Because I'm looking for the answers too. I don't got the answers yet.
I'm like, you already a teacher, so.
I mean, hey.
You never know.
I'm just here to listen. Like I'm just. I'm like,
Take
I'm
steps.
like, I'm over here like, I'm
Yeah.
just here to read and here to listen. That's
Okay.
it. That's it.
I know the
I
word
ain't
for
there
me.
yet. You know what I'm saying? I am what they call a lamb. I ain't no sheep
She's
yet.
a
You know what I'm saying?
lamb.
I'm still listening. Call a lamb, not a sheep. We ain't there yet. But it's with
Okay.
but for real,
Mm.
like just the wanting to know for yourself is
Mhm.
like where I'm finding myself now. Which is it's a new space. So it's like even, you know, there's certain things that you know just from being around it and growing up in it, but then like when you really know, like see it for yourself, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
like it resonates differently. So even, you know, the same verses that you've heard growing up, they mean differently when when your eyes open
Lord's
differently. And I'll
Prayer.
literally like you go in and read that and you're like, hold on, like now that
Are you
makes no
going
sense.
through
And
something?
yeah, I was
Imagine
about to
a
say,
dark
like,
moment, honey.
yeah.
I will recite that Lord's
Listen,
Somebody-
Prayer.
a heartbeat.
Like it ain't nothing.
Sometimes it's not even like the anointing of it. It's having lived a bit of life at this point.
Mhm.
And them
Mhm.
not, they're not just words
You
thrown at
connecting
you
it.
not.
It's
Yeah, it
not.
makes sense.
it's like, oh snap, you know,
It's like,
this is
oh, this is for
Yeah.
real. Like when you start
Mhm.
to understand
Okay.
that it's not just a book. It's not just words on a page. Like it's called a living word for a reason. Like
Mhm.
because it is alive, and it's like it still applies to today. Like people always say, oh, it was written so long ago, blah blah blah. But then everything that you read in there, you apply right now, and it's like, yeah, that's how about right. Even though the words may sound a little strange because of the
thee, thou,
you know, like the thee, the thou, it kind of throw you off a little
translation.
You
at
better get
first.
that new international version and keep it
But
moving.
no, but you gotta be careful with those because all the translations are not the same. So like you gotta go back.
True.
Like
Mhm.
but that comes with, it's not reading it, it's listening to it, like, and taking your time. Like you can't read it like a regular book. You can't just go through it like, you know, from the
You gotta
beginning, you
like
know, in the
digest
beginning
it.
was the word, and you know, like you gotta literally digest word for word, and then when you hear it and it makes more sense. That's what it is. So that for me has been the like probably like the biggest thing for that like in the giving piece, because that's really the only place that that piece is going to come from, and I know that, and that's where I'm willingly searching it on my own now, like,
Mhm.
and not just, okay, yeah, they told me that it's this, but like now I want to hear it, you know. So that's really been
That's beautiful. I love that for you. How about you, Kourtney?
I honestly, one of the things I think, and it took me a while to actually like make the connection, surprisingly, but I gave, like I said, my mom had lived like in New York for her last year, and this is just on a whim, really. My mom was born and bred Georgia all her life, lived in Chattanooga for a little bit, Tennessee, but what's the difference? But she was ready to see something new, and like, of course, New York is total different ball game than, you know, the sticky sweetness of the South. And I gave her so much shit, you know, because my mom was going, she didn't have nothing lined up, you know, not a place. She had her car. She had, not a job lined up, nothing, that you would think somebody, what you associate with readiness, all the things you associate with readiness.
Having those ducks in a row.
Yeah, yes. Those
that
ducks,
is crucial. Oh my God, that's crucial.
Those them damn ducks. But
like, why they gotta be in a row?
Them ducks.
Why they can't be stacked? Why they can't be in a circle?
Russian
Why they gotta be in a row? That's stressful.
They said get them in a row, honey.
And I gave her so much shit. I gave her so much shit for like not having it. But my mom, she was convinced that that's where she needed to be. A lot of that was God. A lot of that was her telling me that God was moving her to that place for a new experience. And I can't argue with it because when she got there, she was able to get insurance immediately before anything went down. And something she could never get in Georgia. I mean, they pull you through the ringer.
If that ain't gonna be shot, if that ain't
no but God, honey.
I don't tell you.
And I can't,
she already knew.
Me and my sister, we go back to it. We were just like, we gave her, specifically me, gave her so much shit. But had she not gone there, she wouldn't have gotten the care. She wouldn't have gotten, we don't have to worry about bills, nothing coming back to us. And it seemed crazy, right? Like God sent you up there to die, but but
You said it got to be here.
I can't.
When it don't make sense, then until it all makes sense, and then you like, I got it.
And it does, and I can't. I go back, and that is a comfort for me that she had everything taken care of for her. But I added that to say, like, I ended up doing years later the same exact thing. And it took me. I don't know why I was so slow, right?
Generational.
Generational.
Right. And I was at my wit's end. I thought I was like, you know what, this is out of necessity. You know, I have to do this. And I was like, that is, it sounds like crazy or perverse, but I connected with her in that desperation. You know, like when I was able to put two and two together, I was like,
this is what she was talking about.
Yeah.
This is what she felt. Yeah.
I'm here now. I'm at this point. Yep. And I find myself every day that I'm out here just living out her wildest dreams. She might not have been able to enjoy New York to the extent that she had hoped, but
I'm taking Denver for you.
I'm taking Denver by storm. So like, yeah. And to me in that way, that's honoring her. And my aunt, who that lady was my counsel, my teacher in a lot of ways. And I think in the ways that I have continued to value, I don't know, just my aunt was very encouraging of me to use my voice in any capacity.
And now you are.
And she was correct with that, honey.
I mean, she chewed a little bit. She chewed just a little bit, you know.
She's on points.
But I will do it with, like, you know, dream. I can't journal in the way that I used to. Like, I can't just like write it down anymore. I do audio recordings, and I've
been doing that too. Yes. I get sleepy. I'd be 2 sentences in, and I'm like, all right.
This is like an assignment. I'm dead. I can't do it. But when you record, for me, like, it kind of preserves and what I've been feeling and experiencing and understanding why my aunt put so much power in the voice. You preserve where you are in that moment. You know, after you had the dream, you preserve, like, you know, that. I mean, it's changed my introspection so much, because I can go back and listen to that dream and be like, girl, you were on some shit. Like,
what was you smoking? Like, is it crack?
Dreams be
what is going on? Yeah.
Listen, my dreams have been really weird over the last couple of years.
It's when they be spot on for me, and I'm like,
spot on too.
I don't like that. Like,
okay, what you trying to tell me?
I don't like how accurate that was. Like, I look back, I'm like,
but that's where I got a lot of my comfort. I love keeping them though. Yeah, that's where I got a lot of my comfort too. I have to say that, like, Spirit was right there. Spirit was giving me dreams. Like, I would have dreams where there was one particular dream I remember in detail where I was waiting for Saturn to come and beat the shit out of Earth. Like, we were having
hold up.
The Saturn was coming, and we were about to get destroyed. Low-key. Yeah, I mean,
write it down, Kourtney. Write it down.
But Miss Playwright.
What'd you say?
I said Miss Playwright.
Oh, okay. But no, it come and it completely obliterated Earth, and I was lucky to be, like, with my mom in, like, a bunker. It was like a kind of like I guess a spaceship in a way, but at this moment we were at the lowest level of it, and me and my mom were there, and I remember her telling me, "This is about to change your life. This is about to be a heavy hit, but you're going to be okay." And she embraced me. And then, just like every dream I had, like, in the months leading up, she would just, like, disappear. Like, she would never walk out. It was almost like the transition fades in some of your videos or a Proud Parade. Yep. She would just, like, dissolve away. But that dream in particular left me with so much, because what I took was the symbolism of, like, this is about to be a heavy hit. And everything that your life as you know it is about to change. Mm-hmm. But you will be okay. And the resolution of that dream is that I ended up on a evacuation ship with a community of other refugees who had been spared. And I was like, obviously that meant I was going to Denver, obviously. Like, just making sense where there is none. But dreams really came. They came in and they spoke to me in the ways where sometimes I couldn't verbalize in my waking hours, where you don't have time, where the mundane kind of just like the hustle and bustle of survival just kind of like takes prominence, and your subconscious is not able to work as efficiently as it wants to. And those dreams to me was my subconscious processing my loss when I lost the ability to do it consciously. When I lost the ability to do it consciously.
That's like, a bar.
It was working it out for me. It was working it out for me, you know. So
he gonna work it out.
Gonna
work it out.
I like that.
I do too. For me too, like dreams have always been not that necessarily, but that's a bar. Hold up.
We gotta write that down.
Okay, that's a clip.
Okay.
But no, for me, dreams have always been my piece in the sense that like I know that when I lose someone, I'm gonna see them again in that way. I swear it never fails for me. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be an aunt, a cousin, anybody. I always see them in my dreams. And even after, like long after they've been gone for a while, they still pop in every now and then. And that is like the comfort for me. Like every single time, like I literally wake up excited when I know I got to see somebody. I'm like, dang, like, and I would call like my mom or my grandma. I'd be like, yo, guess who I dreamt about last night? Like, guess who I got to see? And it's even better. It's one thing to like see them. It's another thing to like converse with them or to be able to like touch them again or anything or like hear their laugh and stuff like that. So that's always been like I look forward to that. Anytime that I lose someone, I'm like, I know I'm gonna see them again, you know, in that way. So that's literally how I always make peace with things. Yeah.
It's different for me.
Okay.
So my granddad, he passed 2007 or 2008. The first time I had a dream of him was this year.
Wow.
Yeah. And I remember, I don't know if we were at my house, but my mom was there and she was cooking and we were all dancing and happy. And I told her and she was like, oh, that made me feel so good. And I was like, yeah, that was good to see him. Because I would always wonder, I'm like, why don't I be having dreams?
Why he popping up?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
why he's not visiting me? Like,
why I owe him money? Like, what's up? Did I owe him money?
Right. So yeah, and you know, I have a lot of dreams, but usually mine are more like symbolic, or there's always a message. Like the last dream that I remember, not the spooky one that I talked about in my close friends, but there was one that I had before. I think I was at like a botanica or something, and I went and like picked up some herbs or something, and then I was talking to the lady, and then she had said something about you need to feed your aunt or something, and I'm just like, who are we talking about? And then and then I left, and then I realized that I left my stuff in there, but there was no way to get back in. So now I'm thinking, I'm like, do I have to find this stuff on my own? And like I'm still trying to figure that out. So thanks for being here.
I need a damn dream person.
Yes.
Like, you know how we got therapists, like but we need like dream interpreters or something. Nice. But like good ones, like that's
but see, I don't trust that though.
Don't be trying to make it logical.
No, because it's like I don't trust that because you wasn't in my head, so you ain't see it, so you can't picture it to interpret it the way that I need to.
Make
so
it
it's
logical as hell. Yeah.
I know it's
cool. Other shit going on. It's too
like real. This is meant for me to figure out myself. It's cool.
Okay.
Like
I feel that.
Okay. That's when I pray. Like just reveal to me what I need to know about whatever that was. Just
let me be
reveal
Joseph.
to me
let
what
me
I need to know
and be able to interpret it. Like Joseph did. Yeah.
Like what you wake up like
that do happen.
I feel like it does
later on. Down the line, you'll like something will happen, and you like that's what that was trying to tell me, or that's
that's how it usually goes for me.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I had a dream of one of my great aunts. My great aunt Helen, she passed 2005, I think, 4 or 5. I had a dream of her maybe last year. I don't remember what happened, but I was just happy to see her.
And sometimes it's just that simple, you know. Sometimes it's not all of the extra that we try to make it be. We try to put meaning on like yes, everything like has sometimes that is the meaning, just for it to come back and just make you happy. If you needed a little pick me up, sometimes it's just you just needed a good memory right now. You just needed a little bit of good energy in you right now, and that's what it was meant for. Sometimes it's just that.
Definitely.
Yep.
So
we do
crazy.
have
Being human's so
one
weird.
question about being a creative and being a Black woman. How has all of this grief affected y'all's creative processes?
Girl, I'm ready to create. Ready to dance. We are ready to produce. We are ready to get out. We ready. We're ready because time is of the essence now. And it's like, how long I'm gonna keep sleeping on stuff that I know I got stored up? How long I'm gonna keep not putting stuff out because I'm afraid of whatever it like. It just need to be about. It just need to be for me now. It's like I'm ready. I got some things to say. I got
okay.
I got some things to say, and I got some feelings to explore and get out. And yeah, for sure.
I feel the same urge. I do, and I feel it urgently. Like I feel the same, kind of in the same energy that you're like talking about. Like it does feel urgent. It does feel like I'm still weeding through all of my doubts and everything like that. But I think if anything, when I do keep going and I encourage myself, I remember all these things that they saw in me first. Like they were some of my first cheerleaders. They were some of my first. They saw what in me. They told me when I was young that I was going to be like a news reporter. Oh, and I was like, and back in the day, but back in the day, that meant like you were nosy, right? Like, so I thought I was like, y'all are being petty. Y'all could just outright say it. If y'all want me out of your business, I will. But,
like, just say that.
But yeah. But I realize now that was them recognizing in me
let your gift
my capacity, my capacity. And
for sure.
I as I'm working through that inner critic, that voice that tells me that there's not a lane, there's not what can you do with this, or what can you, and this is very relative right now because I don't know what this is. Okay. I feel like for the last couple of years I've just been saying that I needed to do something. I need to do something, but I don't know. I don't have a heavy definitive on what that thing is. But I know there's an urgency, there's a pushing. And the way I used to combat those thoughts, that critic, is just using my mom's words, using my aunt's words, I had a good friend to pass this year, unexpectedly. So she was kind of my rock. We were going through similar losses around the same time. And when it felt like a lot of my friends, because I got a touch of autism. I feel it. I know it.
Girl, I feel like we all do at this point.
I was just about to say, I think everybody has a little something.
Yeah, somewhere.
I think that's just human. That's what I think. It's just human. But.
Okay, well, that's comforting. It's comforting, in a way. And but I feel like there were some friends that kind of could understand that divergence a little bit more. And she was one of them. And especially during the process of grief, my grieving being so divergent looked a little differently. Like I was, the social cues did not come to me even then, even when I was supposed to be grieving. They didn't come to me even then. And this was a friend that I could count on and just kind of like hash things out with. And she was very instrumental in telling me to talk about it. She wasn't one of the people in my lives or one of the energies in my life that silenced me or was tired or would glaze over every time I talk about my loss. It was therapeutic for us. So I all of this is saying talk and communication. So I feel like if nothing else, with my loved ones, with grieving them, I am aware that like my honoring them will also be in doing something with my voice. What? I don't know.
Mhm.
But
I got some ideas.
Okay.
you always had, you were never short on those. Like
That's beautiful.
yeah.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that.
Absolutely.
Mm.
All the best to you in that process, all of it, because
To you.
it's like being able to talk about your process, being able to talk about your testimony, being able to share that with the world. You don't know how many people that's going to touch when you can go through that, because it's going to be people who are going through similar things or about to go through similar things who are going to need that kind of guidance to look to, especially in our community. That's going to, like,
Absolutely.
you don't even know how many people that's about to touch.
And I mean,
all the best to you in that.
And thank you, and same to you. Like I appreciate this platform so much, because I mean, ultimately, it was like people want to talk. Like people, I'm like, people want to talk about this, like,
Right.
because and you look around and you know it's so necessary when you talk about the losses in COVID and how we were technically desensitized to it. There was never a point in time where we just like literally counted our losses and literally absorb all that we had lost. There was never and again, there are people who are losing people every day, who are told to acknowledge it and move on, who are given that message. And it was still like a shock to hear like somebody wants to do a whole podcast episode on grief.
Okay.
And because it was such a surprise to me, I know it's needed. I know it's necessary. And I appreciate, you guys for hosting this space and giving this platform. It was so nice to meet all of you.
Yes, I know. No, really, because it's need. It is needed. We're human, and humans all go, like, no matter whatever our differences are, we all the same at the root. Like, we all go through the same emotions.
Absolutely.
And so everybody deals with it. Right. Literally, we all deal with the same things in different ways at different times. That's all it at the end of the day. So it's like it'll look different for everybody, it'll sound different to everybody, but it's all the same at the core. And it's like being able to talk about it and be able to like express that, like somebody who's listening is gonna be like, oh, I feel seen.
Yep.
They'll say they feel seen because somebody else is dealing with it too. Like, I'm not alone in this. Like a lot of people have that feeling of like, they feel alone in whatever the situation is, and it's what drives a lot of people to a lot of different things that are not good. You know what I mean? Because they feel alone, and being able to remind people that like you're not like in this world, you are not alone, even if you feel like nobody around you support. There is somebody you haven't met yet, somebody you haven't reconnected with, whatever the case. Like, there is somebody out there who is feeling what you're feeling, or who can relate to what it is that you're talking about, who can be there, for like you. We are not alone in this thing, and we don't have to be alone in anything that we go through.
That's facts.
That's another clip. Yes.
Okay.
I'm like, listen. I'm like,
and not before I came
you
on,
have quite
like,
a
what am I even
few.
gonna say? Like, what am I gonna talk about?
That's why I said when Ray was like talking about the script, I was like, maybe we don't need no script. This is a conversation. We literally gonna let this thing. We just gonna let this thing float, because it's something that we've all gone through. We could sit here for another 3 hours and keep talking about this.
3 days.
That's how deep.
Honestly, yeah. Because I was looking at the time. I was like, whoa,
yeah. We really
when I wasn't worried about a script. I was worried in general, but I wasn't worried about a script until you said it. And I was like, oh my God. And I guess my mind had gone to, I was like, this is such a delicate subject. This is such a, like, something you want to handle responsibly.
Yeah.
But
which is why no I asked about it. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
In the beginning, that's why she was like, if you're comfortable, like, and you want to, and I was like, yeah. Like, yeah.
But I had no idea.
At all.
But no, and are you saying when they reached out?
Yeah, like when the was like, oh, like, like we want to do, have a podcast, talking around this, and if you're, comfortable enough to talk about it, like, would you want to? And I was like, the fact that they even were like, I want to make sure that you're okay to talk about it first, and not just, like, even just like it's the little things like that. That's like, oh, you care.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know.
I mean, I literally had to come back, and it was Kiara who reached out to me, and I was like, "Girl, so the radio silence you heard." I was like, I don't know. Like, it scared me. I don't know if I'll be able to hold it together. I don't know how deep we're getting into it. I don't like. I want to convey. Yeah, I don't know what's gonna come up. I want to convey the points that I feel like are important, but I also want to be present, you know, in the grieving energy, because this space is not plenty, you know, it's not everywhere. And I wanted to use this kind of as like a session, in a way, like a therapy session.
Okay, right.
Because it's invaluable, right? It's
Yep.
just, it's not everywhere. But I had to back away and like, is this something that I want to do, that I want to put out there? And Kiara was like, listen, I will reiterate, this is to your level of comfort. Like, if you feel like you can do it, please, but by all means, I'm going at your pace. And I agree. Like, I appreciated that, because I was like, I gotta explain to this girl, because Instagram is like, seen at this time, you know, time step seen. And I was like, I gotta tell her, you know,
like, I gotta say something.
yeah. But I wanted to make sure it wasn't a quick acceptance, that it wasn't a quick denial, that, you know, the energy that was telling me to deny was not fear, and the energy that was telling me to, you know, like, I wanted to make sure that was coming from a sober place. And I mean sober, just in mind, you know. And and I appreciate the way you guys set all of this up and reached out to us and all of that. This is, again, invaluable. I love
it.
Yes. We're
guys
so
are doing
grateful
great
that y'all said yes. Love y'all down. This was definitely beautiful. All right, y'all. That is a wrap for us.
We talked about this the other day, where this is the Gen Z version. Right?
Oh my God.
She like can't bend the top, so she just does this.
I feel like I don't know. No, I feel
this
like
is our version. This is the millennial version. We stick to this.
Okay.
I was about to say,
this is a lot of work.
I feel like I'm stepping on some toes with that one, like some.
Oh, this
like, what am I repping? Like,
it's gang.
Like, is it? Am I repping?
I don't know.
Gang, okay.
Like, do I need to blur this out when the camera?
Yeah, I'm like,
I edit this and post. Like,
I just be in bloods. Wow. But I
went south real quick.
Y'all, that's a wrap. We really, really hope that this episode can help some of you who are dealing with your own grief, going through your own journey with grief, that you can find some comfort and support in knowing that you're not alone in your experiences, as we've all just said. Yeah, Rhea.
Yes. I'll take it away. So just to remember and remind yourself that healing is not linear. It is a personal process. Like Sabina was saying, it's the roller coaster, and you don't ever get off of it. You just keep riding it. There's ups and downs. And it's also okay to seek help, you know, if you want therapy or just talking to friends, or like, you know, people at church. Go to the water and cry it out. That works.
Okay.
I love a good car cry.
I was about to say, insert mountains here.
Mountains too.
Well, there's scream right quick.
I was about to say.
Okay.
Yes. And just leaning on people that are helping you for guidance.
All right, y'all. We'll be back again soon. Until then, be sure to subscribe to our audio podcast, Yas Black Girl, on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And please rate us and leave a little review for us too, okay? Please.
5 star.
Yes.
And follow us. You said 5-star. I know.
Okay.
And follow us on Instagram at Yas Black Girl Series. That's YAS Black Girl Series. And follow Kiara and I at The Only Rhea and Unique Genre on Instagram as well. And all information can be found in the show notes. So until next time.
Later, y'all.
We'll be back.
Thank y'all.
Bye.
Yes.